now Bitcoin is a 90,500. But you got to learn the basics of Bitcoin. Everybody has asking me, tell me more about Bitcoin, or they want clarification on some of the facts. Well, Bitcoin Conference, Turks and Caicos, January 3, 2026, celebrating 17 years on Yatoshi. That is our Bitcoin boat here in Turks and Caicos Islands, operated by Caicos Lifestyle. Now, if you want to go out and have a great time on the waters in the Caribbean, anywhere between Florida and anywhere in the Caribbean, you can contact Caicos Lifestyle, and it's the same number because I hook you up with the best deals. 649-441-8805. If you want to get on Caicos Lifestyle private yacht, we take up to 25 guests at a time, and we have other boats that we partner with, so we usually go out with a whole bunch of boats. We have several events throughout the year where it's like so many boats hooking up together on the beach, having fun in Turks and Caicos, celebrating. So much to celebrate there. I just want to welcome each of you to the show. If you're online, if you're on Twitter, X, Facebook, wherever you are, tuning in, our website, 885thebeat.com. This is Charlene with the Smart Beat. Now, what are we doing with Bitcoin today? I want to go into some of the basic facts. Let me just run through some of the basic facts that I teach about Bitcoin. So, Bitcoin is very important to me, and it's very dear to my philosophy, because I come from a background where I work and work and work all of my life. But here are the basic things about Bitcoin. Bitcoin is not only a currency. There are 21 fundamentals that today we're going to cover. I'm just going to sail through them. So, Bitcoin, first of all, is the technology. What is the technology? It's called blockchain technology. So, if you want to understand the difference between Bitcoin, the coin, the currency, and Bitcoin, the technology, just think about blockchain. So, blockchain is a technology that captures data and stores that data, and you cannot change the data once it's been published. Once it's been put out, you can't really change it. So that's why Bitcoin is so the technology, the blockchain technology, is so important, because you can basically uh, publish, promote, put all this information in a block of Bitcoin. Like, now they're talking about ordinals. Like, the first Bitcoin, or early on Bitcoin, there were PDF files that were stored inside of the blocks, inscriptions. So you can set up any kind of functionality, and nobody can go back and change it. It's recorded in the ledger. It's recorded in the block, like engraved in a cave, in the wall of a cave somewhere, but electronically. So that's what Bitcoin technology is. The blockchain is the store of value, the store of information over time. And since 2009, the Bitcoin blockchain has not stopped running. As long as there's one computer worldwide running the Bitcoin code out of millions of computers, the Bitcoin will not go offline. So Bitcoin is 17 years today. I'm just texting this, I'm tweeting this um, right now as we speak. It's January 3, 2026. Not only that, today, Venezuela was liberated. The people from Venezuela are saying today Venezuela was liberated because President Trump, the U.S., went in and captured Maduro. Nicolas Maduro has been captured out of Venezuela. He's no longer the president of Venezuela. There's a lot of information about what's going on in Venezuela for the last, decade or 2 decades, probably. Venezuela has a lot of oil, and early on, the United States government and Chevron and Shell and all the big major gas companies have been investing in Venezuela in the oil business there. So what happens is recently over the last 10 years or maybe 5 years or so, there's been some conflict in Venezuela, and all the United States oil companies were expelled out of Venezuela. So Chevron, Shell, Tesoro, all the major oil companies that have set up in Venezuela, set up U.S. oil rigs, oil extraction, mining of oil, were basically out of Venezuela, and the oil business had been taken over by another country. Like, I think Venezuela was partnered up with China and a bunch of other companies to take the oil that the US companies that invested in building that infrastructure. So now that President Trump is the president, he's basically saying that they want to go back in and get the oil and recoup the losses that the US companies that are invested in building Venezuela oil business, they want to go back in and reclaim their investments. So that's the economic side of things. Now there are a lot of different reasons for the conflict in Venezuela, a lot of political reasons, a lot of other reasons that I'm not going to get in. The US has been blowing boats left and right out of the Caribbean waters, out of the Caribbean Sea. So we pretty much stay in our lane here in Turks and Caicos Islands because of what's going on with the drug cartels out in the. These are like way out in the ocean, out in the deep, trying to bring stuff from the Caribbean or from Venezuela to the United States. So that's been going on all summer. Boats have been blown up left and right in the Caribbean Sea. And everybody's like, okay, is it safe to go on a yacht? Is it safe to get on a boat? Is it really safe to get on a boat in the Caribbean right now for leisure? Is it safe to go out and enjoy your time on a yacht? To take a private charter on a yacht in the Caribbean because you could be blown up? I don't think so, folks. They're very strategic about what they're doing. So it's not like they're just hitting boats left and right. They're looking for specific targets. It's specific boats, specific vessels that they have intelligence about. So I haven't spoken about the boats getting blown up in the Caribbean Sea because we are in the yachting and the boating business, and I didn't want to like throw people off or scare people off to not book our boats with Caicos lifestyle to go out on the water because of what's going on with the U.S. government and Venezuela and the cartels. But today, the Venezuelan people have been liberated. That's what they're saying all over the internet. There's people are celebrating. The streets are full of Venezuelans just enjoying this freedom, this newly gained freedom. Venezuela was free and very prosperous at one point, and they're still prosperous. But the regime and the government that they were under had very tight economic restrictions. And since they basically had conflict with the US oil companies in Venezuela, the money that used to roll into Venezuela for the oil, because the US was buying this oil from Venezuela, all that money, all that financial resources were being, I think, wiped out by the cartels. Or so Venezuela has seen economic decline over the last decade, way, way down. And so hopefully this is a good thing for those people in their country. I don't know too much of the details surrounding the conflict, so I'm going to leave that alone. But when it comes to the economic viability, you know what? Venezuelans have been one of the countries that have been leading the way in Bitcoin adoption. People have been using Bitcoin a lot in Venezuela because it's one of the few currencies that they could actually use because they've got embargoes. They weren't able to integrate internationally when you have so many embargoes on on your country. So if the United States had an embargo on Venezuela, then the people were the ones who suffered. Thank God, over the last 17 years, today being the 17th anniversary of Bitcoin, a lot of Venezuela is in the top 10 countries of people using Bitcoin on a daily basis as a currency. So, and we've seen too over the past several years, wherever there's been a war, like in Russia and Ukraine, Ukrainians have been using Bitcoin a lot to transfer money because there's been a lot of this kind of embargo on these countries during wartime. So the digital currency, back to what Bitcoin is, that technology can be used by any country, can be used anywhere in the world, whether there's an embargo or not. Because remember, the Federal Reserve is a private entity, a private bank, and what they do is they restrict money. You know, they put financial restrictions and tighten the money purse on countries based on their political standing or based on their creditability, their financial credit ratings. So countries could be tightened financially based off of politics and also based off of money, the flow of money. So here is Bitcoin comes along 17 years ago, and now this changes the game for people to transact outside of the banking system. So when during this time, as Venezuela has been under an embargo, they have been one of the top users, one of the top countries using Bitcoin and crypto. There are lots of different crypto that's very popular in Venezuela because people get, it's easy to send, and it doesn't cost a lot of money, like compared to like sending a Western Union or sending a MoneyGram. The say it's like $10 to send MoneyGram for a certain amount. For Bitcoin, it could be 10 cents or 5 cents, even 3 cents to send the same amount of money. So you're talking about going from multiples of dollars, say $10, to few pennies, like 2 cents, 3 cents, 4 cents. You're going from dollars to cents, less than a penny, to less than a dime, less than a quarter, to send money around the world. That's what Bitcoin allowed a lot of people to do. So in countries, you say, how come these countries where people are very tightened financially, they've got the boots around their on their neck, right? How come they're using Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies so much? Cryptocurrencies is very proliferated in many of these Caribbean countries. Some, I don't want to say third world. You know, I don't want to like put people down. I don't like the terminology third world, like, oh, we're better than you. Like in countries with smaller population, smaller GDPs, less affluence, those countries are some of the countries that have been using crypto over the last decade very, very much. A lot of the Bitcoin transactions that are flowing have come from those countries, and we can see, basically, I'm looking at the fiat leaf, you can see where every transaction in Bitcoin is coming from. Is it coming from the US? Is it coming from Venezuela? I'm looking at it right now. It's when you look at fiat leak, you can see all of this stuff. It's amazing what you can see. I like watching this. Is like entertaining for me. All the Bitcoin moving about the world, every transaction per second, every single movement of every single coin, we can see what's happening there. So Bitcoin, nothing's private in the in sense of you can see every all the transactions. What's private about it is you don't need to know the person behind it, so it protects your identity. Originally Bitcoin was set up so that you didn't even have to put a name. You just send money from one wallet to another wallet. No name, no address, no biographical information, no banking information. So I think now they've come out with regulation where some countries requiring users to actually have to put in their biographical information. It's called KYC, know your customer. So I'm looking right now. Bitcoin is trading, oh my goodness, 90,000 today. I'm excited to um, share this information with you. 90,500. And I'm looking at US dollar, I'm looking at what's going on in Venezuela and how much transactions, millions and millions of transactions have come out of Venezuela over the past decade using Bitcoin. Now, why is this so important? What is the convergence between what's going on in Venezuela and what's going on with Bitcoin? I want you to understand the technology that Bitcoin runs on, the blockchain technology, it can be utilized anywhere in the world. Okay, you can mine Bitcoin anywhere in the world, and you can transfer Bitcoin anywhere in the world. No one country owns Bitcoin. So during the embargo period or during wartime, Bitcoin has been one of the major currencies that have been used globally, in Russia, in Ukraine, in Venezuela, and a lot of African countries are using Bitcoin because their own currency is very tight against the US dollar. So here we go, understanding the blockchain. Now, how does the blockchain work? The blockchain basically says if you make a transaction in Turks and Caicos Islands or in Venezuela or in the United States, that transaction is recorded on every single computer that is running the Bitcoin code. So let's say somebody in their basement in Africa or in Alaska or in the Bahamas is running the Bitcoin code on their laptop, on their computer, or on a tablet somewhere. Once it's connected to the internet, all the transactions going through the Bitcoin network is captured on every single computer and it's recorded. Now, there is something called, or there's a group of people called validators. So if you're running the Bitcoin code, you can be part of the group of people that validates the transaction. For example, if I have $100 in Bitcoin in one wallet and I'm sending $20 to say Captain Robo over at Caicos Lifestyle, that transaction, even though it's occurring locally here in Turks and Caicos, it's recorded worldwide. That's what a blockchain does. So once we get all the financial systems into the blockchain, that's going to eliminate this idea of fraud. Over the past few years, ever since Bitcoin came out, governments and brokers and bankers have been saying, don't use Bitcoin because it's fraud. Now, how do they catch these people who they claim are doing fraud? Because the transactions are recorded. Everything is recorded. Cash, you can do all kinds of stuff with cash, right? It's not necessarily recorded unless someone writes it down, and even then. But think about it. If you gave a jitney or a taxi man, $2, $3 to drop you off here or there, that very small transaction is also recorded worldwide. Everybody who has a computer running the Bitcoin code is recording every transaction. Doesn't matter how big or small it is. There's no doubt. You transfer from one wallet to another, it doesn't matter where in the world those transactions takes place, they all get collected into one big bucket. And that bucket is called the Bitcoin network. And that network is called the blockchain. Now, there are a lot of other coins and blockchains that have come about since Bitcoin 17 years ago. There is Solana, there is Ethereum, there are Tron, there is what is it? The other one, Raven coin. A lot of different coins have been created that people use. There's Litecoin. Litecoin is very popular in the Caribbean too, and in South America and in Venezuela. People use a lot of Litecoin in Venezuela. So what happens is all of these different copies of the Bitcoin are trying to do what Bitcoin is doing, but they're not as strong. You're talking about 90,500 for Bitcoin. Ethereum is in the 3,000s. It's between 3 and 4,000. And the next currency compared to the US dollar is the yen or the British pound. So we're talking about thousands and thousands, $90,000 is the value of the currency of one Bitcoin to one US dollar. And that is because the security of the network and the blockchain that the Bitcoin is running on is so secure. It has been running nonstop. It has not taken a breath. Like, on the radio here, Charlene, 88.5 FM, the beat. 88.5 FM, the beat. I need to stop my thoughts for a second and take a breath, take a break. No, Bitcoin has not taken a breath in 17 years that network has been running. And that's not because one computer has been running 17 years nonstop. It doesn't matter if your computer that's running the Bitcoin blockchain, if it goes online or offline. You turn the computer on, as soon as you turn it off, it goes offline. As soon as you turn it back on, it catches up with the current status of the whole network. So as long as one or two computers are running on the network and being able to transmit these transactions between each other on the network, that network will never die. And so there are a few things that add to the value of what Bitcoin is trading at on the exchanges today. One of those things, like I said, is the security of the network over time. And if your network has been running for 17 years nonstop, no pause, no stopping, no breakdowns, no hacking, everything else in the world has been hacked. Bitcoin has not been hacked. There have been some changes and updates to the Bitcoin code, but those were not hacks. Those were internal updates and internal validation, uh, synchronized changes on the network itself, not hacked. It has not been hacked in 17 years. So security of the network is very important. Thank you all for tuning in. It is January 3. Venezuela has been liberated. This is Charlene, 88.5 FM, The Beat, broadcasting live on the radio today. And Bitcoin is trading at 90,594 as we speak. The highs for today it went all close to 90,800. We hit that high today. Now, there are a lot of other things about Bitcoin that I'd like to share with you. But before I go into the next thing about Bitcoin and why it's so strong and why it's trading at such a high value, I want to remind you to go onto our website, 885thebeat.com, 885thebeat.com, and register, because one of the great things that we're doing, and today especially, I'm going to give out 17,000. Today I'm giving out 17,000 radio station, the Beat coin. We have our own token called the Beat. If you go on to 885thebeat.com, I am giving out 17,000 tokens today, and we're just going to divide up that 17,000 among all our registered users. So remember, I've been telling you, if you want to get free stuff, you can go onto our website, 885thebeat.com. You can register. There's cups, there's mugs, there are t-shirts and grocery bags and all kinds of goodies listed there on the website, 885thebeat.com. And you can redeem these tokens for some of those merch, free merch. It's not free technically, because you have to have the points, you have to have the Beat tokens and trade in those tokens for the free goodies. So the only way to get the free t-shirts and the hats from our radio station, 88.5 FM, The Beat, you have to go onto the website that I have already set everything up, folks, 885thebeat.com. Register. If you're already registered, you will receive your portion of the 17,000. This is a big drop. I know I wanted to surprise all of our listeners. I wanted to surprise all of our viewers with a special treat today. And because it's 17 years of Bitcoin since 2009, I am giving out 17. I'm airdropping, literally airdropping 17,000 88.5 FM tokens among all our registered listeners. Okay, if you're listening right now, you can go onto the website and sign up, because this I can always give you a new member sign up points, okay? But the 17,000 is our people who are registered by midnight tonight. At midnight, at the end of the day, I was gonna normally we every day I have it set up to issue 88.5 of our tokens every single day. Every single day, that's automated. But I'm pushing a airdrop of 17,000, and I didn't do it before the show because I know I wanted to mention it on the show so people can race, run. When you get get out of your car, go on to 885thebeat.com, register to get free stuff, and sign up right away. And I'm going to issue the tokens, 17,000 tokens, sometime between 11 and 2 a.m. So 11 at night to 2 a.m. So I'm gonna airdrop it around 11, but I don't know how fast it will get to everybody's accounts. So it's going to be automated. Just register and you'll get the portion of the free token from 88.5 FM, The Beat. Our token is called The Beat. And this is Charlene live on the radio with the Smart Beat. Now, if you want to text me to learn more, 649 441 8805. 649 441 8805. Okay, let me get back into our lesson for today. We're talking about the different features and the fundamentals of Bitcoin. When I was formerly an instructor at Utah Valley University in Utah, Salt Lake City area, I had my curriculum were the 21 fundamental facts about Bitcoin. And I want to run through those with you real quickly. So here are the fundamentals of what Bitcoin is. So you ask, what is Bitcoin? We get that question every day, right? So Bitcoin here, starting with the first one. There are 21. I'm going to go through them. So don't worry, they're up on the website, and I post them all the time online. So you don't have to remember all 21 fundamentals of Bitcoin that I teach, or but if you have a pencil, you can write it down, or just take a mental pencil if you're driving. Okay, 1, Bitcoin is art. You've heard about people creating NFTs and creating artwork and selling them and making millions using the blockchain technology. So Bitcoin itself is art. It's a technology, but the technology is able to be used for art. On the blockchain, there are a lot of inscriptions. You can attach files, you can attach artwork, you can attach anything in the Bitcoin code. Some people are saying that's like cluttering the network and slowing it down, but who knows? You can do it. So Bitcoin is art. The second thing is Bitcoin is key, Key. Bitcoin is a key that unlocks, metaphorically, your financial freedom. It also takes a key. You need a key phrase to be able to access your Bitcoin. So you have to have a key, a password. Now, it's not called a password. It's actually called a seed phrase. So it's 12 or 17 words not letters, not characters, 17 words, 12 words that you need to record or remember to be able to access your Bitcoin wallet. So that's what Bitcoin is. Key. It's a key. Bitcoin is also life. And why do I say Bitcoin is life? For me personally, Bitcoin is life. Bitcoin is life because I had some very uh, critical health scares. I've been through hell and back when it comes to my health. And I was in a coma for a long time. And when I would go in and out of coma, and so they didn't pull the plug. I think they tried to pull the plug on me several times, but even death refused me. Even death didn't want to have nothing with this girl. So I was in a coma for a long time. And when I came back to myself, the only thing that I could really concentrate on, or the only thing that really could let me know, am I in a coma still, or am I actually alive and alert? And my consciousness is in this planet Earth. So it when I came out of the major coma, I would go back into mini comas, and every day I wake up, it's like I'm coming out of another coma. So I had to start to learn how to walk again. I had to learn all the things about myself all over again. And then that kind of brings back my memory. So actually doing this radio show is therapy for me. It helps me to stay alive, and I stay alive by doing this show, by keeping my mental acuity very high. That's why I learn all this stuff about finance. I have to keep learning. I have to stay on top of the charts, because that's the only way I know I'm alive, is by actively pursuing information. But the one thing that lets me know I'm alive is I can actually see the time on the Bitcoin chart, because the Bitcoin chart doesn't stop. You know, the stock market, it closes at a certain time of day, and then it closes. Banks close on certain holidays, and then they open on this day. And even if you're not in the United States, your banks are observing the US bank holidays. So like for me, it's very confusing, like what day really it is. I have no idea what day it is. A lot of times people be like, oh, you were supposed to meet me here. We had an appointment to go do this, and you didn't show up. And frankly, sometimes people don't understand, like literally I have no clue what day it is. I have no clue what time it is. I have no clue what planet I'm on. Okay, and that's because of my brain injury from being in and out of coma. But here's what lets me know right now, this is the day and this is the time. The only thing, not even my phone, because sometimes I look at my phone and I see the dates and I see the time, and and my brain, inside my brain, is saying a completely different thing. I will look at the phone and it will be like, okay, today's Tuesday. No, today's not. Today's Saturday. See, already I'm talking about Tuesday. I confuse myself all the time. Let me not confuse you. But Bitcoin is the lifeblood that lets me know that I'm alive. So for me, Bitcoin is life. Bitcoin is time. Like I said, since 2009, Bitcoin has not stopped running. Anywhere in the world you go, there's a computer running Bitcoin somewhere around on this planet, and it tracks the time. Now, the time in different time zones might show different on the transaction, but the network itself has its own time clock. The network itself, it synchronizes and validates the time based on the global positioning of time, the global timestamp. So wherever you are, Bitcoin is going to record that time of that transaction locally, but it's going to be validated globally. So for me, Bitcoin is time, and time is very important because it takes a certain amount of time for the next Bitcoin block to be mined. So I think it's like now every 12 minutes or every 12 minutes, there's a new Bitcoin block. Okay, and that time is halved every, we're going to the halving one of these days. But the time between each new Bitcoin to be mined, it varies because it takes time for computers to validate, and that time fluctuates up and down within a minute or so. So if you are running the Bitcoin code or you're mining Bitcoin, the time between the next Bitcoin coming out, these are brand new Bitcoins out of the 21 million, that time is very, very critical. That time is determines what we call the hash rate, the amount of seconds, the amount of time it takes for a new block of Bitcoin to be mined, to be released into the Bitcoin network and added on to the existing Bitcoin. That time is called the hash rate. So we're going to go over those things throughout the year in more detail. I'm just giving a rundown. Bitcoin is art, Bitcoin is key, Bitcoin is life, Bitcoin is time, Bitcoin is work. So the work that the computers are doing, they're working, millions of computers are running this code, and they're working hard to see who's going to solve this equation the fastest. So the work that the computers are doing, they're doing two kinds of work. They're sustaining the network and recording the transactions. At the same time, the network is trying to solve an equation, and that equation is self generated within the network based on the amount of computers. I don't know, the algorithm is so immense and so particular, and nobody knows what those equations are going to be. It's automatically generated within the computer network itself, so no human can be like, okay, this is the next question, like when you're taking a test at school, and you can get the test questions, you can get the practice questions ahead of time. When I was in school, when I was in high school, I used to get all the tests, and I never even bother studying any books. I just take the tests over and over again. Then after a while, I start remembering the answers. So, but you can't do that with Bitcoin. Bitcoin is the opposite of that. You can't memorize the code. You can't memorize what the formula or what the equation is going to be. It's automatically populated by Bitcoin itself inside the network. So that is why it's very secure. That adds to the security. The work that the Bitcoin code and computers are doing, that work, once the computer figures out what the equation is and the answer to it, boom, they're awarded a block, and they get rewarded for the work and the time that they put into solving these very complex equations on the Bitcoin network. Thank you all for tuning in. This is Charlene. It's January 3rd, 2026. We are live on 88.5 FM, The Beat, 885 The Beat. 885thebeat.com. That's the radio station website. It's my show website. And I'm doing the smart beat. I go over smart stuff. I talk about technology stuff. So thank you for tuning in. Just to catch you up on what's happening in the broader world outside the Bitcoin network. I've just been talking about, techie stuff. Today, Venezuela was liberated, and Maduro, who was the president of Venezuela up until dawn this morning, was captured. He was raided in his home. His wife and himself were captured and flown. They were captured by the United States. This is the United States doing. They went in overnight and took Maduro and his wife, and I think they drop him off in Cuba. So all of this happening in the Caribbean. All of a sudden, the Caribbean is a hotbed, right? I'm looking at the map right now. We have Turks and Caicos Islands, where we're broadcasting 88.5 FM The Beat. And of course, we have Florida right there. We have the Caribbean there. We've got the Gulf of America there. And we have Cuba right close to Jamaica. So we are in the middle. Literally, we are in the middle of this military action. Can you imagine? Early this morning, Maduro from Venezuela was flown across above us in the Caribbean, in the Turks and Caicos, and brought over to Cuba. I think they're what do they call it? You would they have a prison there. U.S. have a prison where they put political prisoners, and so this has been blowing up online. So that's what's happening now. All the people, all the videos that I've seen is everybody in Venezuela has been celebrating because in Venezuela, the people have been living underneath. The regime is very tight. They've been living under very oppressive and very economically dire circumstance. People have their political enemies have been chased out, and the people there used to be very wealthy, used to be very rich. Venezuela has a lot of oil. They were distributing that oil, or the U.S. companies, Shell, I think Tesoro, Chevron had set up shop in Venezuela to extract oil, and they were kicked out. Right? They basically their licenses were terminated. So Trump, now that Trump is president, he wants them to go back in and reclaim their investments that they had made down there in the oil. That's one argument. There are a lot of arguments, but the financial piece of it, having to do with the oil. Yes, the U.S. government is after the oil because it's not just the government of the United States. The government of the United States had given money to some of these big oil companies like Chevron, and given them money to go invest that money in Venezuela, set up the oil refineries, set up the oil rigs, set up the pipelines, transferring the oil out of Venezuela, and all the vessels and all the oil tanker ships and everything. That's a lot of that money. Primarily, all of that money came from the U.S. So now that they were kicked out, now they're going back in, and Maduro is out, and everybody in Venezuela, from what I've seen, is celebrating online. Thank you for tuning in, everybody. That's a wrap on the Venezuela stuff. And the good thing, over the last decade, the people in Venezuela, because their currency had been worth nothing, and they basically been starved out financially. A lot of people have been using Bitcoin and other crypto coins to do business, to send money back and forth. It costs pennies to send Bitcoin and crypto. So like 3 cents, 4 cents, even if it's 50 cents, compared to $10, even $100 to send money, like with one of those instant MoneyGram, Western Union, whatever. So a lot of the people in Venezuela and other Caribbean countries, South America, have been using a lot of Bitcoin and crypto for over the last decade. Bitcoin today just turned 17 years since Bitcoin has been in circulation. Now, let me go back to a couple things. Thank you all for tuning in. This is Charlene, 88.5 FM, The Beat, the smart beat. So, Bitcoin is art, Bitcoin is key, Bitcoin is life, Bitcoin is time, Bitcoin is work, Bitcoin is an asset. So Bitcoin has gotten to the point where you can have Bitcoin now in your stock portfolio. Not only can you have an ETF or a version, the paper version of Bitcoin through your broker, you can also record Bitcoin that you have in your wallet as an asset. And some governments, the only reason they're saying regulation is because they actually want to tax that asset. This is money that you've already paid tax on and you save, and then you go buy Bitcoin. Now they want to tax it again. Oh my goodness, these governments. But Bitcoin is also a force. Bitcoin, in the war between Russia and Ukraine, the Ukrainian have raised a lot of money from Bitcoin and people donating cryptocurrency. And also Russia, because their currency was embargoed, Russia has been using Bitcoin to settle trade for oil with other countries, and they've been using Bitcoin a lot as well. So here we are, 2026, January 3. Venezuela has been using a lot of Bitcoin. Russia has been using Bitcoin. China has been using Bitcoin. Ukraine has been using Bitcoin. All across Africa, every country has been using Bitcoin. Bitcoin is now officially US Treasury asset. It's an asset on the US Treasury balance sheet. A lot of major corporations have now announced Bitcoin on their balance sheet. There is no major company that's not doing Bitcoin right now. You have Coinbase, Strategy, Mara Holding, 21 Capital, Bitcoin Standard Treasury Company, Bullish. You have Bitfarms, Canaan, Nexion, Cipher, Big Planet, PayPal, Square, X. All of these major companies that you're familiar with are using Bitcoin and have Bitcoin on their balance sheet. The Genius Group, um, also Tesla has a lot of Bitcoin on its balance sheet. Coinbase, a lot of you guys are familiar with Coinbase. All of these companies have Bitcoin on their balance sheet. Now, before we wrap up the show, I just want to run through the list of things that I covered when I teach Bitcoin. I formerly was a teacher or an instructor at Utah Valley University, and I had, over 200 students in my class taking my class on Bitcoin. Here are some of the other features of the 21 fundamentals about Bitcoin. Bitcoin is digital, meaning you can't. It's not like a paper. You can cash it as a ATM machine and pull out cash. You can stick a thumb drive or a storage stick or a memory card or a memory stick in the computer and move Bitcoin from wallet to wallet, but it's only digitally. Now, the key for me is Bitcoin is energy. So most of you have heard me talk about this very much because this is my wheelhouse. Bitcoin is energy. Bitcoin is real energy and it's digital energy. Bitcoin is the store of the energy and the store of the value of the energy. So Bitcoin uses electricity. So all the computers around the world that are running the Bitcoin, they're using electricity. They're using power. That power, that electricity is stored in the value of the Bitcoin. Why is Bitcoin 90,500 today? Because all the computers worldwide, every kilowatt of electricity, that value is added in as a fraction in into the network at any given moment. So as more computers come onto the Bitcoin network, they're using more energy. And as computers get turned off, they stop using energy. But it's a continuous cycle of computers turning on and off. Some computers, Bitcoin mining computers, don't run 24/7. Sometimes they cycle these computers, but people, your laptop runs out of energy, the power goes out, whatever the reason is. The computers go in and out of the network, on and off, and so that gives you that fluctuation in the price of Bitcoin. Some people think that the reason Bitcoin is 90,000 is because all the billionaires and all the millionaires are buying it. But if you look at all the money going into Bitcoin over the last few months, you would think Bitcoin, if people are saying Bitcoin is going to be 1 million because Michael Saylor or Deutsche Bank or JP Morgan Bank or BlackRock investing big money, billions into Bitcoin. Why is Bitcoin not over the moon? Well, the thing that controls a lot of the price in Bitcoin is not necessarily how much people are buying or selling. It's the network, it's the energy, it's the number of computers that are running the Bitcoin code has more of an impact on the price that you see for the Bitcoin greater than the number of people buying or selling Bitcoin. Because remember, if someone buys Bitcoin, that Bitcoin is already existing, right? You cannot buy Bitcoin without the Bitcoin being moved from one wallet to another. So if someone buys a 100,000 Bitcoin, it doesn't make a difference whether they buy one Bitcoin or 100,000. The same amount of energy it takes to move 100,000 Bitcoin is the same amount of energy it takes to move one Bitcoin. So if someone comes, oh, I want to buy 100,000 Bitcoin, 100,000 Bitcoin is not being mined today. That's already existing Bitcoin. So buying and moving Bitcoin, or selling and moving Bitcoin from one wallet to another, or meeting someone in the parking lot and exchanging cash for Bitcoin, doesn't necessarily move the value in the price that Bitcoin is trading at, because that is not the major thing that contributes to the price. The amount of energy going into the Bitcoin network, the amount of computers running the Bitcoin. We're going to start running Bitcoin on Keika's Lifestyle. That's the private yacht charter that my friend runs, Captain Robo, and they have 16 kilowatt generator that they run when they take a trip out on a tour, a private tour. They have a lot of have to have oil for the engine, and they also have to have diesel for running the generator, because they got to cook. They're grilling up a jerk chicken on the deck, but they're also baking and cooking and frying, and they've got refrigerator inside and a lot of things. Everything is using the Bluetooth, the music using electricity, and that's being run on the generator. Now, the amount of energy coming out of that generator is more than what the boat can use. So, for example, we have a 16 kilowatt generator on Keika's Lifestyle Yacht. We're generally using between 10 and 6, or 6 and between 6 and 10 kilowatts at any given moment. So we always have an excess of anywhere about 10 kilowatts on a given day that we have, that we're already running the diesel, already burning the fuel that we're not using. So we are going to be doing, and we're starting to set up Bitcoin mining to absorb the excess energy from the boat's operation from the generator. So the energy that we would be wasting because we have nothing plugged in, and we have more energy than what we have plugged in, that now is going to add to the Bitcoin network. That can contribute to the price of the Bitcoin going higher. And anybody can mine Bitcoin. Bitcoin is so easy to know. All you need is a little device. You can buy them online, join a pool, and listen to the show from yesterday. I talked about that. Today I'm talking about Bitcoin is energy. This is Charlene on 88.5 FM, The Beat, the Smart Beat, live on the radio, coming at you live and direct on the radio. Now, here we go. The Bitcoin is going to help the grid, the electric grid. The Bitcoin is going to be the catalyst that drives electricity price down, because there's be so many people running Bitcoin node and mining Bitcoin. There's going to be the only thing to do once the AI take over all your jobs. The only thing you want to be doing is mining Bitcoin by setting up computers and connecting with a pool and earning rewards and earning Bitcoin. That will be the only thing for you to do, because all the chores, hospitality, every job will be taken over by the robots coming soon. But what happens is, once Bitcoin, everybody starts mining, and more countries and boats and everybody starts mining Bitcoin. That's what's going to happen. Once that happens, electricity price is going to go down. I know it's not what you normally think. You're thinking the more people using electricity, they've always told you the more you use electricity, the higher it's supposed to cost. No, that's not true. Here's the truth about electricity. The reason electricity is so expensive, especially here in Turks and Caicos, because we don't have enough people. See, the infrastructure to generate and deliver that electricity to you has to be spread out among every single person who has a bill in the Turks and Caicos Islands. Now, if you had 50,000 people, the price would go down. If you add another 10,000 people using electricity, the price would go down. So here's what happens. It's not the power company's fault. Fortis just changed their name. Now they're Pelican. The the thing is, It's not their fault that they charge a lot of electricity. I'm not taking up for them. I'm not siding with them. I'm always anti, going against their philosophy. But the reason is because not enough people are on the island to use more electricity to drive the price down. So they still have to have a base load cost. It costs generally about the same amount of money every single day to run and create electricity. So they have to spread that charge across all customers. That's why they have the fuel charge, and then they have a charge, the base charge. But as more people join into using electricity, if you were doing manufacturing, if you had factories here in Turks and Caicos using up more electricity, the price might go down. I think the price should go down with all these new resorts being built. That should drive the price down. But they're still thinking that you don't understand. So they're telling you, oh, all these new resorts, the price is going to go up. No, 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 no. The price should be going down every time a new resort comes online. That should reduce the cost spread out to the whole island. But that's another topic for another day. So let's go back to Bitcoin. Bitcoin is energy, and the energy that goes into creating the Bitcoin creates the value. That 90,500 US for one Bitcoin is mostly coming from the computers using electricity, and that Bitcoin stores the electricity. It stores the value, I mean to say, of the electricity being used. So that if you don't understand anything about Bitcoin, now one thing you must understand is that the electricity that is running the Bitcoin computers and running the network worldwide is what creates the value, is what creates the 90,000 value that you're seeing in the Bitcoin. Bitcoin is the only process, is the only computer generated process that actually captures the value of the energy it uses and stores that value as a currency, as an asset. So Bitcoin really is tokenized energy. Bitcoin is tokenized electricity. If anybody asks you, oh, Bitcoin is just, a computer thing, there's no value to it, it's garbage, whatever. People have been saying those kinds of things. No, it's not. If you listen to my show on 88.5 FM, 88.5 FM, the beat, the smart beat, you will become knowledgeable of the fact that the thing that creates the value in Bitcoin